Hi, I'm Cristyn Steward. I'm from Columbus, Ohio, and I'm the CEO and founder of the Columbus Black International Film Festival. The work that I've created is called When Black Panthers and the Nation Speaks, which is a three-part installation of archivist histories, both of those publications from the Black Panthers and Muhammad Speaks, and basically just putting those together to see the commonalities and the differences in that work and how it relates to Generation Z, how it relates to millennials, Generation X, by not growing up with that those type of publications. My idea is, how would I have been different as a human being, as an individual? But how would my generation have been different? How would we attack certain issues if we had had that? If we had that exposure and that agency in our communities in these type of publications. So I just want people to take from that, this ideal. On top of that, the fact that, these are recycled stories, right? So we have these publications that were created in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and they talk about, police brutality. They talk about redlining. They talk about, the things that are going on in the continent of Africa. And when I look on my social media feed or turn on the news, these are not things that have changed, right? So even this year in 2020, dealing with these outrageous public displays of just genocide of Black folks, and all across the globe, within SARS, the things that are going on in Cameroon, the things that are going on here in the United States of America, it's just, it's crazy. But the reality is that these things continue to happen in our society, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring this work to life. My inspirations, that is a loaded question, but I am inspired by many different things. I'm inspired by different types of art. I'm inspired by different types of art I cannot create, like ceramics and painting and breaking. Like, those are things that inspire me, just art and seeing other people use their bodies and their tools to express how they perceive the world. Another thing that inspires me is stories. The authenticity of people's stories, whether they come from the African diaspora, whether they come from other POC cultures, people of color. Those stories also, they drive me, because you're seeing the world through the lens of what they've been exposed to, what they experience. And then all the while, the common thing is the human connection. So we can have someone from another culture say, this is how I grew up, this is where I grew up, but they still experience grief. They still experience loss. They still experience love and joy. And we can relate to all of those things. And I think that that's great. And that's what inspires me to write and to create and to curate. I think the role that I see contemporary art and contemporary artists in terms of how they serve the community is simply being historians. I think in the Black community, contemporary artists are definitely our griots. These are the individuals that hold culture. These are the individuals that we will definitely be looking toward to in the future to investigate, really, the world that we live in, and we'll continue to do that. it's very important that we see these artists in our community galleries, that we see these artists in our schools, so that we understand that there is a relatability factor from one artist to one person. I think it's very important that we also have exposure to these artists, because we never know how these artists will inspire the everyday person, or inspire the student, or inspire other community leaders, or even politicians to engage, to make a better city, to make a better state, and to make a better country. 100 years from now, someone looks at some of my pieces, I want them to feel freedom. I want them to feel that jubilant feeling that they had never had to be exposed to police violence, that they would never have to be exposed to microaggressions, to systemic oppression, to feeling like they weren't the standard of beauty, that they had to compete with the way someone else looked for their self-esteem. I want patrons or kids or the elderly or city council women to look at this artwork and see the work that has been done to get us to this point, to the point in which we aren't regurgitating stories, to where we don't need Black Lives Matter, to where we don't need human rights campaigns. And I know that sounds utopian in a way, where we feel like we live in a dystopian society. But I want the same feeling that Black girls have when they seen Michelle Obama's painting. I want them to have that feeling. When they see Ruby Bridges and all of those things, I want them to have that feeling. Some of those same feelings I had growing up and learning about the history of Black folks in this country. But I want it to be even more exuberant than anything that I've ever experienced, because they know true freedom. They know true agency of Blackness and Black culture. I want them to understand this is the history. Not you are the future, but this is the future. And that they can relish in not having to code switch, not having to change their hair, and to truly be free. Like, to really be free.